The gold seizure that could change Africa forever. Have you ever wondered how far the world's superpowers will go to keep control over Africa's wealth? This isn't fiction. A shipment of gold from Burkina Faso, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, was seized in a European port. No accident. No legal case. It was politics. Under direct pressure from Washington, those containers never reached their destination. And then came Donald Trump's voice, sharp and unapologetic: if Africa wants access to global markets, it must pay its dues. For President Ibrahim Traoré in Ouagadougou, the news hit like an earthquake. This wasn't business. It was robbery. The seizure. That gold was mined by Burkina workers, the very wealth meant to fund schools, hospitals, and food security. Instead, it was declared collateral for debts written decades earlier under colonial terms. On the streets, anger spread like wildfire. "They steal in daylight and call it law," shouted one man at a rally. The truth was undeniable. If Africa's gold could be stopped at a port, then Africa's sovereignty itself was under siege. What began as a single shipment seized at a dockyard, was about to ignite a continental struggle over Africa's right to control its own future. Washington's logic. In Washington, the seizure was framed as a lesson. Behind the cameras, U.S. officials admitted the truth. This wasn't about trade. It was about the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. For decades, Africa's loans were tied to harsh conditions drafted in Washington and Paris. Repayment had to come in U.S. dollars, backed by guarantees. But as Burkina Faso and its Sahel neighbors began looking toward BRICS and India, Western capitals grew nervous. Trump's answer was brutal: hold the gold. Freeze it. Show Africa that its resources are collateral, whether it agrees or not. The awakening. In Ouagadougou, Traoré gathered his ministers. Some urged compromise, repayment schedules, diplomacy. But others shook their heads. The room fell silent until Traoré stood. His words cut like a blade. They want us to bow. They want us to pay debts we never signed, with gold we mined with our blood. If we bend today, tomorrow there will be nothing left to stand on. The message spread. Miners marched from the gold fields with tools raised like banners. Students staged sit-ins. Farmers shouted, "Our gold is not your guarantee." This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about freedom. New idea. At an emergency meeting of the Alliance of Sahel States, a radical proposal emerged. What if Africa stopped sending its gold through European ports? What if it built its own reserve, vaults on African soil, beyond the reach of IMF treasury? For decades, such talk had been dismissed as fantasy. But after the humiliation of the seizure, it sounded like survival. Traoré spoke with conviction. If we build this vault, it will not belong to Burkina Faso, nor Mali, nor Niger. It will belong to Africa. The idea took root. Across the continent, people chanted, "Keep the gold. Build the vault." Western backlash. But the West did not wait quietly. Banks in Paris froze transactions. Brussels cut insurance for African shipments. Humanitarian aid was delayed. The pressure was relentless. Trump doubled down at a press conference: if Africa wants to sit at the table of global trade, it must first learn to follow the law. To him, the law meant IMF contracts and dollar dominance. Anything else was chaos. Western media echoed the narrative, labeling Traoré reckless, too young, too dangerous. But inside Africa, the opposite was happening. The more the West threatened, the more the people rallied. The shift. While Europe tightened sanctions, Moscow, Beijing, and New Delhi took notice. Envoys from BRICS arrived in Ouagadougou with offers. Direct gold purchases, refining technology, alternative markets that did not bow to Washington. Traoré told his cabinet, "They tried to isolate us. But they have only opened new doors." Agreements were signed. Farmers pledged harvests to support the reserve. Soldiers declared loyalty to the Republic, not to foreign banks. Students went viral online. If they fear it this much, then it must be our only hope. The leak. And then came the bombshell. A European bank whistleblower leaked internal memos proving what many had suspected: the gold seizure had been ordered under direct U.S. pressure. The documents were explicit: without control of their gold, IMF leverage will collapse. This cannot be allowed. The revelation was explosive. What had been framed as law was exposed as coercion. Traoré addressed his nation. They said this was law. But law is not written in secret memos. Law is not the theft of another nation's wealth. A symbol of unity. Across Africa, headlines read, "Our gold, their debt." Independence Square in Ouagadougou filled with tens of thousands, miners holding tools, farmers carrying baskets of grain, students waving banners. "Our gold is our freedom." Mali pledged support. Niger spoke of uranium reserves. Guinea offered bauxite revenues. The African gold reserve was no longer just an idea. It was a movement. Western officials panicked. Trump raged. European leaders denied. But the truth was undeniable. The gold was more than metal now. It was a flag. A symbol. And symbols cannot be seized at a port. Burkina Faso never regained the seized shipment. But in losing it, Africa found something greater: unity. What was meant as humiliation became the foundation of a new future. Standing before the AES summit, Ibrahim Traoré declared, "They thought our gold was collateral. But it is not collateral. It is freedom. And freedom does not beg, it builds." The winds of change are rising. Africa's oldest treasure is no longer guarded in foreign vaults. It is guarded by Africans, for Africans. If you believe Africa has the right to control its own wealth, share this story. Subscribe to the channel, and together, let's follow the journey of a continent that will no longer bow its head. Like, shares, subscribe my channel.